been something good. But there goes on that. So I think that the kid is basically smart about it because he's open about it, which makes me as a Linux guy like it even more.
That's pretty cool. I can see what you're saying there.
Yeah, I had to mention it, and so round peg, square hole. It works.
No, it works. It works. I was curious how you're going to bring it all around, but it makes sense. Now,
right.
When you say he's open, he openly tells his customers things like that, like.
Oh well, A, he'll tell you how everything is made, and B, he actually tells people tips. Well, if you're doing this, you should really go to the other side and you would do better.
I get you.
Kind of thing. He doesn't care.
So he's paying. Yeah, they're paying for the service.
Right now,
sense.
one of the super sad things, he had a custom shirt made that says staff on it. On the back, it says Kane's Arcade, just like arcade guys used to have back in the 80s. Okay, staff. It's a great. His dad said after summer break, when he went back to school and told all his friends that he has an arcade, he said all the kids called him liar. You're a liar, liar, liar. Kane's afraid to wear the shirt to school now because he's afraid he's going to get teased and harassed for being a liar.
I gotcha. Well, if that's all he has to worry about, then he's okay because they're losing out.
Yes, and they're going to lose out even more because, for instance, as soon as I showed it to my wife, 10-minute video, she cried like 8 minutes of it, and then she donated money to him. Okay.
She did?
There's a link on the site to donate money to basically a college fund.
Huh.
Okay. And there is a grant offered where if it raises $250,000, this grant will match the money, and they're going to start up a college fund for creative kids kind of thing. Encouraging kids that can't afford college, but they're creative, to pay for them to go to college.
Interesting.
They've raised $169,000 in, I believe right now, it's 8 days. 8 days ago.
Wow. Good for him.
Yeah.
Very cool, man. Good story.
I don't know if Dor mentioned it, but it was on national news. They showed, NBC showed up, so he got a lot of coverage at the when the mob showed up.
Really? It was on national TV?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. That'll do it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And something to the effect of, I read a thing from today that said yesterday was like one of the very first days Kane had no press there, no news, no cameras, no nothing. And he just sat there for like an hour talking with people and just watching Kane and talking to Kane, just do his thing. He had a guy there with his grandkids, and his 2 grandkids were playing the games, and Kane was just, chatting along with them, having fun, validating their fun pass, and making a little bit of money.
Cool, man. Good for him.
Yeah.
And
he's smart. It's a cash only business. Now here's how I'm going to I know that. Here's one more thing I'm just going to throw out there. This is what I'm going to say is why a lot of patents and trademark things need to be squashed hard. Somebody's going to come up to this kid, I guarantee it, in less than a month, and give him a cease and desist, saying this thing you're doing is violating on our patent or on our trademark, because he had like a skee ball too. Because they've done it to kids with lemonade stands.
Right.
Over in California. They literally closed down kids' lemonade stands because of copyrights and patents kind of thing. I really hope this doesn't happen to this kid. I do not want him to get soured. But if it does happen, I would like that to get even more news than what this got.
Yeah, that would be interesting. And he'll learn a lesson about the world.
Yeah, about just put his company base in Tokyo and he'll be fine.
Yes.
Okay. We're going to get on to the actual content now. Jeff and Ellis both made me uncommonly jealous. They actually lived semi-close to Indiana Linux Fest, which just happened last weekend, which was the 13th, 14th, and 15th, I believe, of April. Yes. And I really wanted to have Jeff on to just tell us anything he wants to tell us about Indiana Linux Fest, whether it's the traffic on the way down or the food that was there, anything. I just want to hear about it.
Well, you guys know me. I'm a network administrator at a small automotive manufacturer here in northern Indiana, and we've got 50 or so users. I've got 2 Linux servers right now that I've rolled out in the last few years, and I'm trying to learn more about it. So the Indiana Linux Fest is, and I'm a blogger. I have a blog, theageofthegeek.net. I'm going to mention something on that because there was some notes I took I'm going to duplicate and put out there. But we went to the Indiana Linux Fest. It's about 20 minutes from Ellis's house, right by the airport, the Wyndham Hotel, lots of parking, huge area. And I've got to admit, Matthew Williams, Lord Dragonblut, Lord D, as he's called, very interesting guy. Of course, bald in his kilts, so he stands out in the crowd, but came right up to us, talked to us some. We went to the Indiana Linux Fest, and I really wanted to go on Friday. We were there Friday last year because they had sessions going on. But some of you know my assistant quit. My new guy is only 5 days into the job, so really couldn't leave him 5 days into it. But on their schedule for Friday, it was mostly they had exam cram lab. They have 10 rooms they reserve, including 1 room for just vendors. But a large meeting room, 4 of them side by side. And they had, like I said, the LPIC exam cram and free BSD training, puppet tutorial, several things like that. Klaatu was there all day. It had a Klaatu special session Friday. So I didn't make it for Friday. And Saturday when I got there, I was there last year, and I heard Matt say on Hacker Public Radio, they had about 250 people there last year. Now, I thought it was much more than that. Very crowded. And we go this year, and it's pouring down rain when we went in there. And not quite as many people. I didn't see so many people in there. I'd say somewhere about 150, 125. A lot younger crowd than last year. I saw a lot of web administrators, network administrators, but a lot of guys who develop web. We went to the Drupal training last year, and I saw a few familiar faces, but a lot younger crowd. This one.
Huh.
He had Saturdays was, they had a hackerspace there Saturday. Last year, they had people from Rose-Hulman, which is in southern Indiana. It's an electrical engineering university, and they had Beagle boards, and they were hacking into a Kinetic. They didn't have quite as many. They did have a really cool display on lock picking. Spent some time there with them. Different locks that you could pick. They're talking about hacking, and then associated with it, right next to them, they had what they called Blooming Labs, where they were building little electronic critters with circuit boards, and a lot of people were enjoying that. It was pretty cool.
What did they do, these critters?
Just crawl, basically. Little spiders, like they crawl along, like you've seen some of the movies. Just you could put them together with the motor, and they would move back and forth. But they had basic circuit board type put together.
Right.
It was pretty interesting.
Yeah,
he had.
Sorry, I was saying, I am not an electrical guy at all. I understand a circuit, and that's about it. I would have loved to just, try to take that in kind of stuff, because to me that's all foreign. It's like voodoo. I'm just like mystified by it.
We had a lot of fun, like I said, through the locks. Now, some of the sessions, they had an all-day session, Python for women. I mean, Matt's in charge of I think it's Indiana Free and Open Source Foundation, and I really only saw about 6 volunteers there. There were just about 6 people helping him get a lot of things done. Less help than last year, but he was everywhere, and they were recording these. They had laptops set up where they were recording every presentation, audio, as well as what was presented on the screens.
Now, did you say Python for women?
For women, yes.
What is the difference between Python for women and Python for men?
They were encouraging more women to come there, and I saw about 30 in there. But if you were a man, you had to have an escort. You couldn't come in without a woman.
Right.
Damn. I'm going to have Steve's Linux Fest for women only.
I'll call HostGator, see what we can do.
Nice. No, that's cool. It sounds like a pretty interesting fest. What else was going on there?
They had a lot about free and open source and the law specifically. Now, they had a whole section about Samba and creating your domain and internet working and DNS. Now, I just kind of looked at that, didn't go in there. In the morning, they had some overlap. I couldn't attend this one in the morning. Drew Levine talking about FreeNAS and the new version of PCBSD. I picked up a copy and talked to them for a while. A lot of improvements. I ran it last year. I like Open Indiana, which is the Solaris version. I've ran it a few times, which Matt Williams really Lord D tried to promote more open source than just Linux. So he basically said that especially BSD, that would be open source, and then Python, Drupal, things of that nature.
Huh.
The opening talk was about the ARM, Linux on the ARM computers. I actually spent more time over in the OpenSUSE section. They had a visually impaired man who gave the presentation. He walked through with his cane. We were watching him walk through in his OpenSUSE shirt. If you remember last year, I want to say Annoyance got the black shirt with the green. I didn't get one of those at Ohio Linux Fest, but they didn't have any extras. I was kind of upset. I wanted one, but
Yeah.
he gave a really good talk about what OpenSUSE could do and how they tie in with SUSE and Novell. Really went into some detail on that. So I stayed in there for a while, and then Don Vosberg, who I met last year, Indiana Linux Fest and Ohio Linux Fest. He's an employee of SUSE. And all he does, he's in Indiana, is talk about SUSE and go to businesses. And I spent a lot of time in there with him. I picked up some really, for me, was real treats. He had a session on how to dual boot or multiple boot. And I was the only one there that had a system already set up to multiple boot. And if anybody's followed me in Google+, I got a new laptop, and I could not install Linux on it. It almost went right back. I almost sent it back, but I kept trying, and he explained a few things with it. And finally, I found out I had bad disks, but it did have that UEFI, and I was going to downgrade the BIOS if I had to.
But the real reason why it wouldn't load was because bad disks? What do you mean? Bad Linux disks.
Yeah, well, the ISOs I'd burned. I couldn't get it to boot from other systems, so I was using multi-boot. But I was talking to...
It wasn't because of the UEFI.
No, but actually talking to him, he laid out something. I've talked to Dora on this, and it was really cool about you want to figure out your Linux distribution you want to install. What's your most important one? He said, no, I'm going to tell you, I'm running Fedora, Mint. He had on his laptop Fedora and Mint and SUSE and Windows. And he says, what's my most important one? Well, for him, it was OpenSUSE. So he put that aside and said, this is the last one you install, and explained how you've developed your partitions so that you don't step on each other. And great detail to that. And like I said, I'm going to kind of document it. Now, I didn't realize this. OpenSUSE uses Grub, I think it's 0.97, which is an older version. And so he actually went into detail how to program in Grub. Now, my son Ellis has had a laptop which somebody's put Voodoo on, not a laptop, a desktop. It worked great, and one day we get up and there's the little Grub screen flashing. It just did not. It was a Dell and did not want to stay in working with Linux. And he explains this to him. Don went into all kinds of detail. I mean, he was a guy. I would say he drank about 6 Monsters and took his pep pills. He was really excited, all over the place, and talking and animated, and you could tell he loved what he did. And I loved listening to him, and so I kind of monopolized the questions there in the session.
Good for you. Somebody has to do it.
I mean, he talked about things such as ButterFS, how much you need more storage space for ButterFS. Yeah. And I kind of asked him why. And he explained about the advancements with ButterFS, what was needed. And he talked about EXTIFS for Windows. If you make your partition, make it EXT3. Now, EXT3 is outdated. EXT4 is the current one that is used. But he said EXT for Windows is set up for EXT2, and you can read those Linux partitions if you dual boot. So if you have Windows on there also, you can get your pictures, documents out of your Linux partition if you install this. So I'm going to give it a shot, see if I can get it to work.
Yeah. EXT4 right now is the standard. The biggest difference between EXT2